All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're breaking down the complete, incredibly visceral storyline of the 2026 survival thriller Apex. We're going to strip away all the outside noise and just focus purely on this intense narrative journey. We're talking high-stakes wilderness survival, crossed with some seriously dark psychological twists. To set the stage, reviewers have been describing this as Deliverance meets the River Wild, and honestly, that hits the nail right on the head. The premise here is incredibly dark. It perfectly captures that terrifying, isolated energy. We're looking at a classic, brutal setup, an isolated wilderness, a protagonist just desperate for an escape, and an antagonist who literally uses the environment as his own personal playground.
So let's start with Act 1, Tragedy in Norway. Our story actually kicks off 5 months before the main hunt even begins. We follow adrenaline junkie Sasha and her boyfriend Tommy. They're tandem climbing the sheer rock face of Norway's imposing troll wall. Right away, this establishes that Sasha is exceptionally capable physically. But, nature is totally unpredictable. A severe storm rolls in out of nowhere. Tommy looks down at his lucky compass and basically realizes their luck has officially run out. Before they can even try to rappel down, boom, an avalanche strikes. A falling rock knocks Tommy completely unconscious and his dead weight starts violently pulling at Sasha. She's losing her grip and she's forced to make this absolutely agonizing decision. She has to cut his rope. She sends him plummeting to his death, an event that leaves her with this profound, lingering trauma.
Which brings us to Act 2, into the Australian wild.
Cut to 5 months later, Sasha is deeply grieving and drives entirely alone into Australia's fictional Wandara National Park. She's actively seeking isolation. A local ranger actually warns her about a string of recent disappearances, but, she pushes forward anyway. She stops at this rural service station and has a super tense run-in with 2 aggressive hunters. Out of nowhere, a stranger named Ben intervenes and totally de-escalates the situation. To say thanks, the store actually offers Sasha a bag of beef jerky that Ben himself had given them. Ben then helpfully points her in the right direction, playing the classic friendly local trope perfectly.
But guys, keep this bag of jerky in your mind. I promise you, it foreshadows something much, much darker.
Sasha takes her kayak deep into the wilderness, trying to find some peace, only to wake up the very next morning to find her bag is just gone. She wanders around, stumbles upon Ben's camp, and this is where a chilling escalation kicks into high gear. First, Ben casually admits he stole her bag. No big deal, right? Next, he calmly offers her breakfast while dropping these little hints that he knows all about her climbing past. Yeah, he's been stalking her. Then, he pulls out a boombox and a literal crossbow. He looks at a terrified Sasha and tells her she has exactly until the end of one single song to run before he starts hunting her. The psychological game is officially on.
And Ben's hunting tactics? They are deeply unsettling. Reviewers pointed out that instead of just quietly tracking her like a normal hunter, he relies on making these creepy, mimicking bird noises just to psychologically torment her. He's taking the very nature she sought out for healing and turning it into a weapon of terror. It's so bizarre, but it starkly contrasts with the very real, extreme physical danger he poses with that crossbow. He isn't just trying to kill her, he's literally treating her like prey.
Let's move right into Act 3. The deadly hunt begins. Now, Sasha doesn't just freeze up. Her survival instincts immediately kick in, sparking this frantic, incredibly fast-paced wilderness chase. She initially manages to escape in her kayak, but she loses it trying to navigate some absolutely brutal rapids. Then, she hears voices. Thinking it's a rescue, she sprints uphill, only to realize Ben planted a fake video recording of a family, just to lure her in. It was a complete trap. She has to dive straight into the river just to dodge his crossbow fire. She spots an empty canoe, makes a desperate break for it, but the wilderness holds one more cruel surprise. Bam! She steps directly into a concealed bear trap.
I want you to really put yourself in Sasha's shoes for a second here. With a bear trap triggered, her leg mangled, and absolutely no way to escape the wild on her own, what happens next? Well, Ben finally catches his prey. But as we transition into the darkest part of this storyline, we quickly learn that a quick death from a crossbow bolt, that would have been an absolute mercy compared to what Ben actually has planned for.
Act 4. Captured by a cannibal.
So Ben takes a badly injured, chained-up Sasha to this horrifying hidden lair deep inside a canyon. As her eyes adjust to the dark, she sees the carcasses of missing people just strewn about, including that family from the video recording. And hey, remember that bag of jerky from the gas station? Yeah, here is where it comes back into play in the worst way possible. Ben reveals his absolute depravity. The guy practices cannibalistic rituals. He openly confesses to consuming his past victims, even his own mother.
He's been butchering hikers and turning them into the exact same jerky Sasha was given earlier. And worst of all, she is slated to be his next meal.
Faced with this absolute nightmare, Sasha just goes feral. She fights back with this visceral, primal aggression. She literally bites off one of Ben's ears, manages to escape her shackles, and makes a desperate run down the river. Ben is right behind her, of course. He attaches himself to a suspension cable she's trying to use, and the two of them plunge right over a roaring waterfall. The impact actually knocks Ben unconscious. When he wakes up and tries to overpower her all over again, Sasha grabs a rock and just shatters his leg, giving him a severe compound fracture. Suddenly the playing field is violently leveled.
This takes us to Act 5, the final tandem climb.
So now, both of them are heavily battered. They spend a wildly tense night together, where Sasha, somewhat surprisingly, confesses her deep guilt over letting Tommy fall to his death back in Norway. When morning finally breaks, Sasha is still shackled to Ben. Waiting for him to just die of an infection would take days, so they reach this wary, desperate compromise. They decide to tandem climb the sheer cliff face to escape the canyon. But here's the thing. Their mindsets are entirely different. Ben genuinely expects them to reach the top, get rescued, and he promises to unshackle her once they're up there. Sasha, on the other hand, she is quietly fashioning a specialized climbing knot known as a Prusik knot. She has absolutely zero intention of letting a cannibalistic serial killer survive this climb.
So the ultimate question really is, how do two chained enemies escape a canyon together without one killing the other? Well, they don't. Midway up the cliff, Sasha stops at a ledge and discreetly loosens her harness. Ben notices this and violently tries to pull her off the cliff, trying to take her down with him. But because she loosened it, her harness slips completely off. She removes the Prusik knot that's holding his weight, and Ben just plummets to his death. It's a massive callback, echoing the exact way Tommy died, but this time, it's a deliberate execution.
Act 6, Survival and Resolution.
Finally free from her attacker, Sasha manages to complete the rest of that treacherous climb with no gear. She navigates the dark forest until she hits a road, is finally rescued, and gives the park rangers the exact coordinates of that hidden cave. When authorities raid the hideout, the grim reality is revealed. 16. They recover at least 16 bodies, along with that missing family. That single number really highlights the sheer horrifying scale of what Sasha managed to put an end to.
The storyline wraps up with a final, incredibly symbolic act. Amidst all the chaotic news reports of the horrifying discovery, Sasha just walks down to the beach. She takes out Tommy's lucky compass, the one that warned them of the storm way back in Norway, and she throws it as far as she can deep into the ocean. By surviving this absolute ordeal, she has finally let go of the paralyzing trauma and guilt she'd been carrying from her past.
So I gotta ask you, after hearing the sheer brutality of this survival explainer, what would you have done in Sasha's shoes? Do you think you could have made that terrifying climb while literally chained to a monster? It's a storyline that seriously pushes the extreme limits of human endurance and the dark, dark lengths someone will go to in order to survive. Let me know your thoughts on Sasha's final decision, and as always, keep seeking out the stories that push the limits.